Okay, let's talk about seventh chord inversions. We had talked about earlier about triad inversions and the figured bass symbols. So now we're going to do the same thing with seventh chords. So if you notice what I did is I just wrote a normal seventh chord right here, just stacked up in root position. Root position again means that the root of the chord, so this is a C chord, the C is the bass. The third is the bass, the fifth is the bass, the seventh is the bass. Again, when we talk about inversions, you don't care about really what's above it. All you care about is which chord degree is the lowest note, okay? So on this one, I know that these are all C chords, okay? So this is a C chord. They're all major sevens, by the way, okay? And if I take a look at this one, it's a seventh on top, and there's a 5, and there's a 3, okay? There's a seventh, there's a fifth, and there's a third, okay? So I'm going to take a look at this one. The third is on the bottom. Now, if you notice on all of these, you're going to get a second somewhere. We'll talk about that a little bit later when we're trying to identify these. As soon as you see a second, that's a giveaway that you've got a seventh chord. You take a look at the top note of the second, and that's going to be the root. Take a look here. What's the top note of the second? It's a C. What's the top note of the second? A C. What's the top note of the second? A C. So I know that these are all C seventh chords. Okay, let's take a look at this one. If I look on top, that right there is a sixth. And if I take a look right there, that's a fifth. And if I take a look at this interval right here, that's going to be a third. Okay? So now let's take a look at this one right here. This one I have the fifth in the bass. So this one, root in the bass, third in the bass, the fifth is in the bass. And that's going to be a 6, and that's going to be a 4, and that's going to be a 3 when I take a look at all the intervals. Okay? And the very last one with the seventh in the bass, that right there is going to be my 6. This right here is going to be a 4th, and the interval right here is going to be a second. So a 6, 4, 2, and that's how we get all of our intervals. Okay? So now again, this we just call root position. This would be our first inversion. This would be our second inversion. This would be our third inversion. We actually don't say first, second, and third a whole lot. We usually refer to the figured bass. Now, there's a lot of numbers here. Now, if you remember, when we had the triads, we had the 5-3. First inversion was a 6, and then we had the 6-4. You can also call that a 6-3, but we usually take the 3 out and we just abbreviate it as a 6. So this right here are the symbols we have for our triads. So now let's look at our seventh chords. We don't write 7, 5, 3. We already have the 5, 3 here. So what we do, we just say 7. You have to know that it's going to be a seventh chord. So whenever you see a 7, it just means it's a seventh chord in root position. Okay? This one right here in first inversion, we have the 6, the 5, and the 3. Well, for shorthand, we take the 3 out and we just call that a 6-5 chord. So when it says, hey, write a 6-5 chord, what we're saying is write a seventh chord in first inversion, okay? Which means the third is in the bass. Now this one right here, we already have a 6-4, we have a 6, so our abbreviation for a second inversion, ooh, my goodness, is a 4-3, okay? So 4-3 means a second inversion, which means the fifth is going to be the bass note. And on this one, we call this a 4-2 chord. So those are the abbreviations. So if you find yourself writing a seventh chord or you're analyzing a seventh chord and the seventh is in the bass, we call that a 4-2 chord, okay? And so that's how we do our abbreviations. So this is the shortcut on what a seventh chord is. Now, let's really quickly do 1 or 2 examples of how we would find them in music, and then we can have a whole lot more examples. So let's do it. I'll do this at the snap of a finger. Watch this. Okay, I have 2 examples right here. We're going to go ahead and do this in a different color because I want to show you how I would normally do this. So when I take a look at this chord, the first thing you have to do to analyze it, and this goes with triads as well, you always start with the bass note. He's locked in, do not change it. So that's a B, so he's going to be a B. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take every note above it and I'm going to write it within an octave of the bass note. The bass note, remember, that gives me the inversion, so that's why he can't move, okay? So I'm going to write everything within an octave. Well, I have a G sharp. Well, that's great. That's within an octave, so I'm going to leave him right there. Okay, I have an E. Okay, well, an E goes right there. And then right here, I've got my D. I'm going to put my D, well, I need a second somewhere, so I'm going to put my D right there. And now I notice I have a second right in here. That's how I find my root. Okay, so right here is my second. The top note of the second is an E, so I know it's some kind of an E chord. Okay, and so if I just write it out, find some blank space, I'll just write it right here. I have an E, I have a G sharp, I have a B, and I have a D. Now, so I know that that's going to be an E, G sharp, B, that's major, and D, well in the key of E, it would be a D sharp, but it's going to be a D natural, so that's an E dominant 7 chord. So E, dominant, I'll go ahead and write dom right now just to make it very clear. But now we have to talk about the inversion, okay? So what's in the bass? The bass note right here is going to be, well, E, G sharp, B. The B, that's the 5th. If the 5th is in the bass, that's the one that we call the 4-3. Okay, now if you forget, you can always go, well, 6, 4, 3. You can actually look at the, all the intervals right here and figure it out. But that's what that would be, an E dominant 4-3. Let's take a look at the next one. Okay, so I'm going to put the F right there. We're not going to leave it. Now I want to write everything within the octave. So here's a B flat. Well, that's above an octave. So I'm going to put the B flat way down here. Okay, and now I have an A flat. Okay, well, geez, I want to put that A flat right there. And then I want to put a D flat right there. Okay, so now I see my second. My second is right here. I probably should have written him there. But anyways, if you notice, the top of the second is a B flat, so that means that's going to be some kind of a B flat chord. Let's go ahead and write it out. So that would be B flat, D flat, F natural, and an A flat. I just like to write it in a root position because it helps me to find the quality of it. So B flat, D flat, F, well that's a B flat minor chord right there, and then that's a minor 7, so I know right now I have a B flat minor. Now I have to figure out the inversion, okay? B flat, D, F, oh wow, they're the same one. Okay, I have the flip in there, so that's also a 4-3. I probably should have been smarter and used a different one. Okay, as an example. But we'll do lots of examples on the side. Watch another video that I'll have, and we'll just work a whole bunch of these out so you can find them on your own for practice. Okay, and that's how we do inversions of 7th chords.